My next guest, Republican Pat Cortellessa. He's running for Secretary of State. He's in with me. Pat, welcome back.
Thank you, Gene.
This is a homecoming from you. For you, you were in here 20 years ago. Well, you ran for mayor against Cianci. I remember those days.
We had some interesting days back then, Gene. Yes, I remember quite well.
I know he didn't give you that P on your lapel.
No, this actually was a gift in 2014 from Mayor Lorza.
Right.
As you know, we got involved in his campaign to help him get over the finish line, right, as they say.
Well, I know you. Listen, you spoke out against Buddy Cianci when he was running in his prime, so that took a little political courage. You lost for mayor, and then you've made a couple of other runs. Secretary of State, you ran for the legislature, and now you're back running for Secretary of State again. All right.
Correct,
now, as I look back at the record, I said, "Oh, Pat, he likes to run for office." So what is it? Is this serious? Are you a guy who just likes to run because you want to be heard? What is it? Because you've been a lot of times at the gate.
Each candidacy had a unique situation. Back in 1998, 2002, it was really to focus on corruption. And that's why I got involved. And ultimately, it was proven that there was a lot of corruption going on in Providence at the time.
You were right about that.
And it transpired and put a lot of people in jail for hurting the taxpayers of the state and the city.
Right.
With that said, so that's a long time ago. I'd say 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 plus.
So there's a big window there of not getting involved in politics.
Okay.
But something came up in 2018. The Secretary of State position with the Republican Party was open, and I had done some work with John McCain on his campaign, and President way back with President Reagan.
Yeah.
So I was intrigued by the federal offices also. So spending time in Phoenix with the John McCain campaign, coming back, I felt like maybe I should get involved with state politics. I was not going to do that.
Yeah.
Had no intention. So it was a great experience. Learned a lot 4 years ago, the ins and outs of what to do, what not to do, and what to say, what not to say. And it should have ended there, but again, in my neighborhood in Cranston, there was a Senate seat open. And it's like a learning experience, but you have to really love politics too,
right,
to get involved.
All right, well, listen, you do love politics. I think your heart's in the right place. You're sincere.
Yeah.
But when I say, well, you ran for this, you lost, you ran for that, you lost, you ran for that, you lost, and now you're back again. I know Churchill said, never give up.
Right.
But you must have read that book. So
It doesn't, I don't look at it like that. I think by participating in democracy and giving 40% of the population of the general public to vote is great. I mean, if you took myself out of the equation, you could have actually no one running in those seats.
Okay.
So we had to provide, I had to provide an avenue for people who believe in conservative or maybe, good government, trimming the budget, stuff like that. So that's what I provided the general public to take a look.
Okay, you're back for Secretary of State now. You're running, and you have a Democrat who'll be invited at some point as well. The duties of the Secretary of State are pretty narrow. You account for the businesses, you keep the records, and you have a hand in the elections, separate from the board of elections. Do you accept the narrow responsibility of the Secretary of State, or do you want to use it as a platform to talk about taxes and truck tolls and everything else? Because that's been happening with these general officers.
Well, the Secretary of State is in charge of basically four very important issues. There's the Historical Archives Department, which I really enjoy being a historian. There's election laws.
Yep.
There's corporation, businesses, fees, and things like that. And there's civic education for the students to learn what democracy is all about. My opinion, I want to, it's like a 17-point change, $1 million budget there. So I want to trim that, remove some of the fat.
You want to cut the budget.
Cut the budget.
You cut the staff?
If needed be, once I get in and we look at the staff and see if there's a lot of mid-management, $100,000 players, yes. Okay. I don't want this office to become like the convention center, full of nepotism, cronyism. I want to use this office as an independent / state office, where it's not who you know or who you pay. You have to earn your keep. Also, cutting fees to open a small business or any business is $400 a year.
Yeah.
That's been creeping up over the last several years. I want to bring that back down to $250.
Do you have concerns about early voting? Do you have concerns about mail-in voting? Do you have concerns about the voting machines?
Okay, so early voting. I think we just saw in the Democratic primary, there was an issue with one of the candidates that was really peaking at the end of the date there.
Yeah.
September
well,
13th.
Helena Folks won the day of vote.
Right.
She got beaten by McKee with the early voting and the mail-in ballots. And some people say, well, this is something we have to look closely at.
I would trim that 20-day to 6 days.
Okay.
Why? Because buyer's remorse. A lot of voters might have had an opportunity to vote early. Getting into that also, I think it's taken away the ambiance of voting. You know, my opponent technically is looking to do almost 100% mail ballot strategy. Why? That means technically on election day, it's going to be a non-relevant issue. Mm-hmm. You could have 80% people, voting early or mail ballots. So I'm a traditionalist. I want to give the people of Rhode Island the opportunity to enjoy elections, maybe have a state holiday where people can just vote that day, but also meet the candidates outside the polling locations. The way it's going, Gene, you're going to lose all the flavor of that. Okay. It's going to be completely cosmetic, maybe commercialized.
All right, let me just get a couple of headlines here. So you'll cut your budget, whatever it's allowed. You might reduce the staff. You'd limit 6 days early voting.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any problems with the way Nellie Gorbea has handled things? She had a bump in the road with the machines that had the Spanish ballots in the early voting. They've said they've corrected that. Is there anything else that you say, I don't like the way Nellie did this, I'll change it?
Well, first of all, running for governor as the Secretary of State, I think that's a problem. You can't focus on both. I mean, those are intense departments. I will not, if I'm elected by the people of Rhode Island, I will not use that office as a political stepping stone. Also, I will not protest or my personal agenda on issues. I'm strictly a Secretary of State. I will not enhance my political inspirations there. Getting back to your question, there was a lot of incompetence. Someone forgot to put the 2018 ballots in the machine. No one's overseeing
Spanish language.
Right,
okay.
In Providence.
All right.
So with that, there was a few other issues there. I mean, even to get on the voting rolls, which I have a problem with. Yeah. I think what I would do an executive order, to get on the voting rolls, a utility bill should not get you on the voting roll.
All right. Pat, I've got 1 minute
left. Credit cards, things like that.
All right, just 1 minute. Just answer these quick 10 seconds. I don't like to ask people who they voted for. I think it's fair to say, what kind of Republican are you? Are you closer to Trump or closer to Charlie Baker in Massachusetts?
Neither.
Would you release your tax returns? I don't think it's anybody's business, but it's become an issue. Would you release your tax returns?
If I have to, there's no big secret there. I'm just a hard-working Rhode Islander, making about $75,000 a year. And I work hard, still working, and I sometimes work 2 jobs.
Well, listen, that's the bedrock of Rhode Island. Thanks for coming in.
Okay.
Pat Cortellessa, I will see you again at some point.
Okay.
Thanks.